Hey everyone, today I will be completing OpenAdmin from HackTheBox. This was a medium Linux box created by DM Wong. We start off by finding a web page running on port 80. We use GoBuster to find the music directory that leads us to OpenNetAdmin. We're automatically logged in to OpenNetAdmin as a guest and we can see the version number. We find that the version number has a remote code execution vulnerability and that allows us to get a shell in the box as www data. From there, we find credentials that allow us to SSH in as Jimmy. Once we're Jimmy, we find that there is an internal site running on the box, and that allows us to get the encrypted SSH private key of Joanna. We can crack that using John, and we can SSH in. And once we're SSH'd in as Joanna, we can run a sudo command that allows us to gain root on the box. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to start off with an nmap scan, SV for version, SC for default scripts, output all formats, put it in the nmap directory and call it OpenNetAdmin, or OpenAdmin, and the IP address at 10.10.10.171. And thanks to IPsec for this nmap scan, I use it on pretty much every box. So let's go ahead and look at the results of that scan. We see that port 22 and port 80 are open. Let's go ahead and put that in our notes. Okay, let's go ahead and check out the webpage. Okay, we see Apache Ubuntu default page. Nothing really here. Let's see if there's a robot.txt, robots.txt. There is not, so let's go ahead and see if we can get anything with GoBuster. Let's go back to our terminal. GoBuster dir, the URL, word list, user share word list, GoBuster. We use medium, 2.3 medium. Okay, and that should be good. Let that run. We immediately see music. Copy that and put it in the notes. So let's say GoBuster finds music. So let's go check that out. Oh, did I guess I closed it. /music. And from here, just see a web page, but we do see a create an account and a login. So let's see if we can log in. It takes us to 10.10.10.171/ONA, which is OpenNetAdmin. You can see if we were to go to the download page, it takes us to OpenNetAdmin. We'll put that in our notes. Okay. And we can see it's running version 18.1.1. Also going to put that in here. Maybe, if it'll let me. There we go. Okay. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to see if search exploit has anything for OpenNetAdmin to see if there are any publicly available exploits. And immediately we see for our version number, there's a Metasploit module and an RCE. I'm going to go with this one. The code is probably easier to read than the Metasploit module. So we're going to go ahead and go into our directory. Search exploit -m, we'll copy it. into your directory, and let's move that to onarce.sh, and then let's look at it, see what the code does. These are all comments. Don't need that comment, don't need that comment. We need these comments. Okay, script basically takes in a parameter, does a loop, does this loop over and over and over again, which means it's going to keep reading this CMD, and it's going to run a curl command, and this is the data that's running the curl command, puts in our command, passes the URL into curl, and then I think this is sed minus n minus e. I don't actually know what that is. N is suppress automatic printing of pattern space. E, add this script to the commands to be executed. Okay, and it's going to pipe through to tail and head. Okay, so let's see if this works. So essentially what it's doing, it looks like, is it's inputting whatever we type into this, which this URL is then curled, or as data to, or this is the data that is curled at this URL. Okay. Syntax error. End of file, unexpected, expecting do. I didn't like line 2 for some reason either. Maybe it's formatted weirdly. Yes, it was formatted weirdly. Okay, so there's not a super great way to tell that if there's not any super weird characters in it, but sometimes these are encoded, the files are encoded strangely and have strange characters after them, so just converting them will get rid of any of those weird characters. Okay, so usage for this looked like script, the URL, which we want, which was ONA, and then we type commands now that we've passed that. So let's try AMI. Instant remote code execution on the box, which is great. Okay, so from here, what can we do? We could see if we can get a reverse shell by looking in user bin, seeing if we have any Python. We have Python 3, which is great. We could do a Python 3 reverse shell. That way we aren't limited to just output, because as you see, if I were to do you know, like I couldn't look at any of the files with Vim. I guess I could ls. That works okay. Actually, for now, let's just see if we can use this one. It's usually better to get a stable shell on the box, but we might be able to work with this, because immediately looking at ls, we see a bunch of PHP files, and in particular, config and config dnld might be interesting. So let's cat config dnld. There's actually nothing there. Okay, so let's see what else we have. We have a few directories. We have a local directory. We have a config directory. Let's see what's in the config directory. We see config.inc.php, auth LDAP. What is an auth LDAP? Okay, nothing too great in there. Let's look at config.inc.php. Oh, see, so up arrow doesn't work here, or any arrows, because we are in the loop of a curl command, or in the loop of a bash script. Okay, so here's where a shell, I guess, would be better, but let's look at config.inc.php. Cat ls, that's why that did nothing. config.inc.php. Okay. Okay. These comments look cool. This may not be needed now that user configs are in the database. @include local config inc.php. Okay, so put this in our notes. And that was in, so search exploit RCE .ss www data. We find this in, it was in config.inc.php, and we should now look in local config or .inc.php, because it says that that's where the user configs are. So the next one we're going to be looking at is local config inc.php. Okay, so it's cat local config.inc.php. Nothing. So let's ls local. See what's in there. ls local config. There's database settings.inc.php. I guess we can look at that. Cat local config database settings. Oh. Yeah, that's definitely what we want. Okay, so in here, looks like we have database information. Looks like MySQL password. It does have access to a database. I want to try something before we start dumping the database because it's easy to try. But we could ls user bin grep MySQL to see if there are any SQL tools on the box we could use to dump this database if we need to. And there is MySQL dump right there. But first, I would like to where are my notes? There. I would like to see if there are any local users on the box. Because if there are, maybe there's credential reviews, which is always super great. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to cat etc password and look for anyone that has shells. So sh, be good login, and immediately we see Joanna, Jimmy, and root all have login shells. So those are going to be the ones that we want to look at. Oops. Okay, so let's see if we can SSH. Surely it's not going to be this easy. Oh, there we go. Where was it? Here we go. I'm just going to put this on my clipboard. Yeah, of course not. Okay. So who were the other two we had? We had, looks like Jimmy and Joanna. Let's try Jimmy first. Nice, and we're in as Jimmy, but just for completion, I'm going to see if we can do this as Joanna, because maybe both are used. Joanna. And they're not. Okay, so Jimmy does. Okay, so now we're SSH'd onto the box as Jimmy. And we have his password, which is great, which means we can check things like sudo myself. Which means we can't run anything sudo on the box, but that's okay. Okay, so now we just have to start enumeration. We can go see, since now we have a full shell on the box, we can go see if there's anything interesting that we missed in the website. So we see artwork, Marja, and Sierra. Maybe those are people that I missed. Yeah, let's look at the site. Same thing here. Okay. So it may take some enumeration on the box. When I first did this box, I think I got pretty lucky and just did this. And then I noticed immediately that there is internal. Okay, so if we go into internal, well, first, let's see if, yeah, let's go into internal and see what files are in here. We see 3 PHP files, and so now we can look at all of these. Are they important? Enter username and password. If post username is Jimmy and hash 512 post password. So I'm guessing this is SHA-512 of his password. It'll take you to main PHP. If not, it'll give you wrong username and password. This is just looks like some kind of login thing. Look at the main. We see that it runs this shell command. And if we were to try to just run this, and so this is Joanna's SSH private key that it's trying to cat here. if we just try to run this file, it's going to give us permission denied because, one, it's not logged in with the login we just saw. Okay, and two, since we're running it as, since we're running it as Jimmy, it does not have permission to read that file. When we look at these files, we see that they're owned by internal, which Jimmy is a part of, and these are executed as Jimmy when we run them from here. So this gives me the idea that maybe this is another site where the context these are run is under internal. And we can verify that by looking at the Apache config. So if we go and we look at, Apache, and we look at sites available or sites enabled, let's look at enabled. We see an internal conf and an OpenAdmin.conf. So we want to look at the internal conf here. And this is what we see. We see that there is virtual host routing. It's a subdomain that we could add. I think we could add that to etc hosts and then this port, but maybe not because this is localhost routing. So I think this is running on 52846, which is something that needs to go in our notes. Sites enabled, we had the internal conf. Okay, and so if we were to curl this, it might allow us to execute that code. We want the shell, which is here. So if we were to curl this, it gives us the sign in, login restricted. This is just HTML. Enter username and password. Okay, so if we did main.php, we get the private key. Perfect. I honestly thought that we might need to curl with username Jimmy and his password. If this needed authentication, I think you would need to curl with Jimmy and then his password here. Turns out we did not need to do that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we are going to, we see this here, don't forget your ninja password, which we already have, or this could be a hint for Joanna's password also. Let's go back to our notes, and in here we're going to say RSA key Joanna found when curl 127.0.0.1 5.2.8.4.6 main.php. Okay, so we're going to save that private key. As Joanna ID RSA. Perfect. And we're going to get rid of this at the beginning, otherwise it would not be a valid key. I'm going to try to SSH in with it. SSH. Wait. We can see here, this is an encrypted file, so what we're going to try to do is crack it. And if you're on a Kali install, you can locate SSH to John. It's just a Python script. I'll show you where it's at. So then just Python SSH to John, Joanna. It gives you the private key in John format. So then we're just going to put that in Joanna ID RSA dot John. Perfect. So then we'll John. I believe you just typed the file that you want that has the hashes that you want to crack, and then your word list. I don't know how to specify the word list though. So let's just see what happens when you type John. John. Oh, minus word list. Okay, so we would do John, the password file, which was Joanna ID RSA dot John. Word list. We'll use Rocky. And we'll just let that go. And almost immediately it found it. Boom. Right here, Blood Ninjas. Okay, so now that we have her password, put it in our notes. SSH to John, crack with John. Okay, SSH in as Joanna. With our private key. Oh, ID RSA. No, what? Oh. Minus I for the key that you want to use, which is, or the identity, I think is what it stands for, but. Perfect. Oh, we have bad permissions on the file. 644 to open, because that means that everyone can read the private key, which is terrible. So we're going to mod that 600. Try that again. Okay, we're going to try Blood Ninjas. And we're in as Joanna. Great. So what this does is we have now owned the user on the box. Can you just run word count on this? Yes. See? Okay, so we are Joanna on the box. And see if she can run anything. Immediately we see that she can run bin nano as sudo opt prev. So this, I've seen this before in sudo, and I'm going to bring up a great resource which is called GTFO bins, because this site will show you a lot of set UID binaries and set group ID binaries. That kind of walk you through how to escalate your privilege because of loose controls. So if we go in here and we look at nano, we see it's got the SUID tag, so this is perfect. This is what we're looking for. So it says shell. It can be used to break out from restricted environments by spawning an interactive system shell. So we are going to essentially try this right here. So I'm going to move this to here. No, I'm going to move this to here. Okay. And so what we want to do is we want to sudo bin nano op crit. And so what this has done is we are currently running nano as root, but all we can do is edit the text in here. But what we want to do is we want to keep our root context, but we want to escape into a shell. And the way we do that is it looks like we can do Control R, which is read file, and Control X, which is execute command. And we can reset and then run a shell and redirect standard out and standard error. And we see here that we may have a root shell. So let's ID, who am I, hostname, what is root Ansel? Oh, cancel, it's from the nano options at the bottom. Okay, so let's try that again. ID, who am I, hostname. We are root on OpenAdmin. And there you have it. So we've gone through the entire box. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. And I'll catch you next time.